How's it going, Giants fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo, coming up a pretty interesting, polarizing game for the Giants where we had a couple of big injury scares. Darian Beavers went down with a left leg injury, and then the Kayvon Thibodeaux situation. Thaddeus Moss, bro, dead or alive, we want this guy. I cannot believe that looked like a dirty play to me. I don't know about you, but you're a tight end. You're going into this guy's knees. I heard Brian Baldinger say at the end of the game there was a legal hit. Tight ends do this. Kayvon Thibodeaux should have got lower, should have kind of prepared and braced himself for impact. But Thaddeus Moss went right for the guy's kneecap. Like, didn't even try to go for his thigh or any. He just went right for his knee. And this is how you injure guys in the NFL. Personally, I disagree with the fact that this was illegal or even should be allowed. A lot of people were coming out. Micah Parsons tweeted about, I was like, this stuff should not be allowed. You're not looking at these guys going at your knee. You're looking at the ball carrier, and then you're getting blindsided by someone diving at your freaking kneecap. It's unbelievable, in my opinion. And I do not agree, with the sentiment that this should have been allowed. And, now Kayvon Thibodeaux, you're in a freaking preseason game and you're looking at a potential knee injury there. Luckily, he came out of the blue tent, seemed to be healthy, seemed to be walking around with a slight little limp. I've heard people say it's an MCL sprain. The ACL was spared. We'll see what happens. They're probably going to do a lot more tests tonight, and then we'll find an answer out maybe tomorrow. Brian Dable's been pretty vague, but we'll see. Anthony, what is your impression on that, your thoughts? And, we'll dive in some of the more interesting takeaways from this game and some standout performances as always.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an ugly hit. I don't think it was a fair hit. I thought it should have been, like you mentioned, I agree. It should be illegal to have a hit like that occur. Just going straight at his kneecap like that. It was scary, man. We all held our breath. This is Kayvon Thibodeaux, the number 5 overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft, the future of the New York Giants. He could be the face of the franchise very soon, but not if his career gets derailed by a dirty hit in the preseason, right? It kind of almost reminded me of when Odell Beckham Jr. suffered that dirty hit in preseason against the Browns, and everyone was like, well, first of all, why is he still on the field? Why is he even playing? Second of all, that was a dirty hit. And then I know Odell Beckham got injured later on that season in that same leg in a similar fashion. So I'm hoping that Kayvon Thibodeaux is all right and that this isn't something that hampers him too badly or lingers into the regular season. I know he missed some time early on in the offseason with that hip injury that he had over in mandatory minicamp. But now he's been completely healthy and he's been working really well in practice and playing well in the preseason games. Had a snap where he blanketed someone in coverage today, which I thought was super interesting. Very creative usage from Wink Martindale there. Kind of shows just how important Kayvon Thibodeaux is going to be to this defensive scheme, how great of a player they view him to be, how versatile of a player he is. We need him on the field. He is electric. He is a premier pass rushing threat for the New York Giants, and they need him fully healthy. I'm really hoping that this is a major sniper bullet dodged because, man, this could have been catastrophic for the New York Giants season. But Thibodeaux was walking around on the sideline. He did come out of the blue tent. He did have a smile on his face. It looks like they avoided anything too serious. But again, I'm just hoping that whatever it is, serious or not, it's going to linger for a few weeks. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse. The Giants can't push him too hard. He should be done for the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got like 3 weeks left to heal up, so I'm not too worried as long as it's not anything serious. But definitely, we'll keep you guys updated on the Kayvon Thibodeaux injury front. Darian Beavers as well, who was taken out obviously with the leg injury himself. But some more positive takeaways from this game. In general, the coaching seems to be just far better than what we've seen in the past. Daniel Jones looked really sharp today. He finished with 14 completions on 16 attempts for 116 yards. Did throw an interception, but that was only because it went through Daniel Bellinger's hands. And for goodness sake, I cannot watch another Giants tight end, for whatever reason, lose all sense of catching things. I don't understand what it is, the curse of left guard and freaking tight end, but I don't know why our tight ends just can't catch footballs. That was the interception. Daniel Jones, do not blame him for that. But otherwise, he had a fantastic game.
I'm going to jump in.
Don't even tell me you think that was a high. Don't you tell me that was a high pass.
It was a high pass. It wasn't a super accurate pass. It should have been caught. But it wasn't the best ball. That should have been a better ball. I just want to tie in and say Daniel Jones was really sharp tonight. He did look, but when he missed high. He had a couple balls that did get sailed away. Some of them were caught. I know he only had the 2 incompletions, one being the interception, but that one to Daniel Bellinger, it kind of just shows everything needs to be perfect to be a good quarterback in the NFL, right? Like you can't have a play where you make a mistake. One mistake can cost you everything. It's that kind of mindset that makes Tom Brady and those other quarterbacks so great. But that play, that ball was a little high. Should it have been caught? Yes, absolutely. but he's a rookie. He's a rookie fourth round pick of a tight end. I expect him to make that catch, but unfortunately he didn't. But that ball should have been on his chest. It wasn't anywhere near his chest. It was kind of one of those plays where it was really fast. And Alex, to kind of agree with you in a way, like you've made this point before, where certain passes Daniel Jones makes, he fires them in there in situations where you might want to put more touch or lob on it. This is kind of one of those situations to me. I thought he fired it in high and away, and that's not where the ball needed to be placed, and that is ultimately why it was dropped. But again, that was one play in a series of really good plays from Daniel Jones. I mean, an 11 play, 84-yard scoring drive capped off with a rushing touchdown, and he connected with David Sills many times and looked really, really good. He threw a back shoulder pass that was perfectly placed on the money. I'm only here to sing Daniel Jones's praises right now. Yes, that was one throw. It did go high and it was intercepted. I'm going to put a little more blame on him than you do. But overall, very, very encouraging performance from Daniel Jones tonight. I said I wanted to see him look comfortable and secure in the offensive scheme tonight. Tonight, I saw him have a play at the line of scrimmage. He checked out of it, moved some players around the formation, moved into a play action pass, and threw a first down. I remember that specifically. That was a really nice play and showed comfortability in the offensive scheme, which is the number one thing that I was saying he needs to play for. He needs to play in this preseason so he can get comfortable for the regular season. And I got to say, I saw a lot of comfort from him tonight, and that was super encouraging for me from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, look, he looked a lot more comfortable. I posted a couple of clips that showed he had a really big pocket to work with, too. He had good protection, despite left guard and center being, kind of utilized with some backups there. They played well. Evan Neal looked really, really good today. He had a much better game than he did last week. Second game against the Bengals. Again, backups, but still. He was not looking all top heavy. He was very, very stout in pass protection for the most part, at least from what I've saw. And he's so to have a good foundation. He even pancaked a guy, and this is what you want to see from a guy that's 350 pounds. Massive human being, unbelievably athletic for a person of that size, and he showcased that today. Then the running game also was decent. They didn't really run the ball too much, only 9 carries for Jishawn Corbin, who had the most carries of anybody. Antonio Williams only had 5, but he averaged 5.2 yards per carry with 26 yards. Corbin had that punch-in touchdown, I believe, in the second half. And then, the receivers really stood out. So, what I really liked was that with Darius Slayton out, Colin Johnson got reps with the first team, and he went 3 receptions for 41 yards on 4 targets. He's been catching everything that goes his way. Had a deep crosser. Jones hit him in stride. The ball bounced off his hands a little bit, and then he caught it on the second go. But really, really good play there. You're seeing a lot more intricate route concepts that are ending downfield. And like you said, Anthony, Daniel Jones is moving on through his progressions to find them too. Like, he's seeing those checkdowns, but then he's like, you know what? I have a guy on the crosser deep down the field. Let's see if he's open. Nailed Colin Johnson on it. Really good play there. Jones obviously is liking this system a lot more. It's allowing him to be a little bit more creative, comfortable. The offensive line, the scheme, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know, eating their Wheaties or something, but they look like a whole different unit up to this point in preseason. Again, we're talking about backups, so we'll see what happens when they're actually playing against starters in a couple weeks here. But I'm very encouraged so far from what I've seen in terms of pass protection for Daniel Jones and what he's capable of doing when he has that protection. So hopefully he continues to build on that, but I do not expect him to play in the preseason anymore. Aside from Colin Johnson, the standout receiver was Alex Bachmann. No one saw this coming. Second half, dude just absolutely crushed it. 11 receptions on 14 targets, 122 yards, and 2 touchdowns with a long of 22, an average of 11.1 yards per reception. This dude just came out of nowhere. Like, this backup receiver group, and David Sills, 5 receptions on 56 yards. Like, the backup receivers are just absolutely going to town the last 2 games. I don't know I don't know how you make this decision. Richie James didn't have the best game. It was a little bit quiet with 1 catch for 8 yards, but he has some special teams usage. CJ Board left with a ribs injury, but he also fumbled on a kickoff. His job is very much in question, especially with Bachmann and Johnson killing it today. Those 2 guys, man, what are you thinking? I think Colin Johnson is locking himself into a roster spot if I was to guess. Bachmann, a great performance. Is that enough to secure a roster spot? Maybe not. Still, we need to see consistent play from him. He appears every now and then, but most of the time he's pretty quiet. So next week, if he has another big game, maybe we're talking about Bachmann making the roster. But for now, I'm looking at Colin Johnson as that guy that definitely has himself in a very advantageous spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Johnson definitely has himself in an advantageous spot, but wow. I mean, when you're taking a look at Colin Johnson versus Darius Slayton, that's almost a no-brainer right now. You're going with Colin Johnson. But Alex Bachman, what an incredible performance. 11 receptions, 121 yards, go-ahead touchdown at the end of the game. That was just awesome, dude, to see that man perform like that. 2019 undrafted free agent rookie, signed with Los Angeles. Now he's here with the New York Giants. He was on the roster last year, played in 3 games, saw minimal playing time during the 2021 season, had really just kick returning duties last season. He was primarily a special teams player. But when you take a look at Alex Bachman versus CJ Board versus Richie James versus Johnson, the way that Bachman could make this roster, he was on it last year. Keep that in mind. He was on the Giants roster in 2021 for 3 games, and he had 1 kick return or punt return for 16 yards and 4 kick returns, 94 yards, 23.5 return average, which is about average. It's actually not bad. He was on the roster, and the reason why is because of his special teams ability. And he did demonstrate that again tonight. He had an awesome tackle on special teams, and you were just like, wow. So he's doing all of this on offense, going for 121 yards, and then he's also making sick tackles on special teams. Dude, what a beast. I think he low-key is playing his way onto the Giants roster. Alex Bachman coming out of nowhere. Really didn't expect this to be talking about him tonight as the big standout, the big star of the show. But Alex Bachman, man, heads, showing why he's more valuable than just being like a practice squad or backup wide receiver, showing that he could be a solid, consistent contributor on special teams as well, in addition to being a great relief wide receiver. So I do think Alex Bachman could play his way onto the roster. If not, the Giants should definitely try and stash him on their practice squad and hope that nobody else comes and gets him. But I think some teams are going to be on notice after tonight's performance from Alex Bachman and say, hey, we might want to pick this guy up and add some wide receiver depth to our roster. But Colin Johnson, as you mentioned, what a beast. Another player. David Sills also went out there, had a solid game. Got to keep an eye on him as well. I don't think his chances of making the roster are too great because he can't contribute too much on special teams, and Colin Johnson is probably better as a backup wide receiver, but I still want to give a shout out to Sills Army. Shout out to David Sills. Very good performance, but man, I'm really excited by all of the wide receiver depth that the Giants have. It's almost like they just can't go wrong. Bachman, Sills, Colin Johnson, Richie James Jr., I mean, all of these guys, CJ Board as well. I know that he didn't play too well. He lost that fumble, but he also did have 1 long return of 27 yards. So there was a lot of standout performances from the backup receivers. If there is one position that I feel like the Giants have very decent depth right now, it is that wide receiver position, and that was on full display tonight against the Bengals.
Yes, it was. And I just saw on Twitter that Kayvon Thibodeaux said he's fine. He's good. That's a freaking sigh of release, bro. I was about to go absolutely ape shit if he was seriously injured. Seeing after that happened, I was so angry, but it seems like he's all good. He's going to be fine. That's a really good thing for the Giants, obviously. A lot of the rookies have been injured up to this point. Dane Belton with a broken collarbone. The McKethan with the torn ACL, Beavers now with the leg injury. There's a lot of guys going down from that rookie class. So luckily, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Evan Neal healthy. That is definitely a good thing. But, looking at the other wide receivers, Wan'Dale Robinson tried to get him involved, had 3 receptions for -3 yards. They kind of just tried to dink and dunk with him, and it didn't really amount to much. But I don't think they're really showcasing what they're going to do with him and how they're going to utilize him just yet. Which is probably imperative for the regular season, goal of just going into the year with a newly improved system that they're not trying to give away in the preseason. So I am optimistic about that and his usage moving forward. Defensively, some pretty decent standout performances. Adoree Jackson has looked really good. I'm very happy with him so far. As the CB1, obviously, he's going up against some lesser than quality opponents with the second teams for the Bengals and Patriots. So we'll see him against some much better quality receivers come the regular season. But Michael McFadden finished with 5 tackles today. Darren Evans, kind of backup cornerback, has had a really good couple of days. He had 4 tackles with the pass defended today. Tay Crowder actually was all over the field at a tackle for a loss, so that was pretty solid for him. Khalil Dorsey had a sack and 2 tackles. Pretty decent stand-up performances. At the end of the game, you saw Timon Fox absolutely blow that dude up, to finish it off with a couple seconds left and, force the fumble, and the Giants recovered. So, some really solid takeaways from this game. The defense, played okay. I say the first team played well, and then the second team definitely struggled a little bit. Giving up some yardage to Browning and Jake Browning and Brandon Allen. But otherwise, Davis Webb looked fantastic. 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, 22 completions on 27 attempts. Maybe Davis Webb was the future for us all along. We just gave him away. But but now we're full circle and he's back on the squad. But anybody that really stood out to you that you're like, okay, this is good. Aaron Robinson wasn't destroyed tonight. They didn't really take advantage of him. So at the very least, I'm not sitting here like pointing out any big negative plays for Aaron Robinson, which is a good thing. Definitely bounced back with a more competent performance. But what are your thoughts on some of the players that I've listed off?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more pass rush come from the Giants right now. 1 sack on the night. We've heard a lot about Wink Martindale. I know he's trying to keep a lot of things on the wraps, keep the scheme on the wraps for the regular season, but there is kind of a part of me that's hoping that in this final preseason game, we do see some more pressure generated by the Giants defense. Khalil Dorsey having the 1 sack on the night. Shout out to Michael McFadden leading the team with 5 total tackles. But another player or really another group that I want to kind of just touch on is the running backs. I thought they all looked like solid runners. I liked what Corbin brought to the table. I thought that he looked good. Of course, he punched it in for that 1 touchdown. I know he only averaged 3 yards per carry, 9 carries for 27 yards, but I liked the way he was running. It was decisive, and I liked how the Giants were putting him on a lot of outside zone running plays as well. That was something that I noticed, was that the runs weren't just like deep, like, halfback dive up the gut with a fullback lead blocking. A lot of it was just kind of like outside zone and having a tight end do some pulling there. And I liked the scheme from Brian Daboll. I like the scheme from Brian Daboll, not only in the running game, though, but I also liked it a lot in the passing game. I thought that Brian Daboll's offense looked really good tonight. He got the most out of all of the quarterbacks, in my opinion. There was nothing too fancy about it, nothing too deep downfield. I mean, if you take a look at the average yards per completion for Davis Webb at 7.6, Daniel Jones at 7.3, and Tyrod Taylor at 3.4, which is super low, but that is very typical of Tyrod Taylor. He is very much a check down guy. But taking a look at 7.6 as your average for Davis Webb and 7.3 for Daniel Jones, there was not a lot of deep shots downfield. The Giants weren't taking too many chances and opportunities, probably keeping a lot of that stuff in the scheme on the wraps for the regular season. But also, I think that it was just a very conservative game plan because it was the preseason. They didn't want to push anybody too hard. And also, I think that's the way to maximize the skill set of Daniel Jones, is to keep everything in front of him, just make him comfortable. Because once he's comfortable, then he starts hitting on those deep shots. If the Giants wanted to throw some deep shots in there, he only played 2 drives, right? So look at it this way. If Daniel Jones played those 2 drives to start a regular season game and they punched it in with a touchdown on an 84-yard, 11-play scoring drive, he didn't do anything too fancy on him. There was no 40-yard completion downfield, no big touchdown pass, but all the stuff that he did to get them down the field gets him into a rhythm. And Daniel Jones is very much a rhythm quarterback. When things are going bad, they're going catastrophically bad. When they're going good, they can get really good. And Daniel Jones can get really hot. So having 2 drives like this from Brian Daboll with Daniel Jones was like, okay, that's encouraging, because if he can kind of scheme together those 2 drives to start off the regular season for Daniel Jones, get him into a comfortable rhythm, then he'll start taking shots downfield. He'll start making some plays, and we could definitely see a much more comfortable, much more efficient, and much more productive version of Daniel Jones this upcoming year. Again, I'm more right now speaking not on any player performances, but coaching performance. I was impressed with Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka. Those guys did a good job tonight. They got the most out of the running backs, and they definitely got the most out of the quarterbacks. Davis Webb with an electric performance off the bench. So that was pretty exciting to see. And again, just to say, I really liked what Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they look more disciplined. They look like they can actually execute plays. The running the football looks a lot better. When you get Saquon, KT, Galladay back in there, you get Lemieux and John Feliciano. This team is going to be at least functional. You know what I mean? Like last year, we saw an offense that could barely even function at an NFL level. I would say that they weren't even functioning at an NFL level. They were below. They were like Canadian Football League level. This is a team that actually can run the football. They can do stuff. They're going to be competent at the very least. They're going to be disciplined, and Daboll isn't taking any shit. So I do appreciate the fact that he is elevating the coaching standards on this team. Now, the special teams does need to improve. That was a major, major weak spot today. And last week as well. Graham Gano left with a concussion. I don't know why our kicker is trying to tackle someone in a preseason game, but it happened. Just trying to make something happen, for his team, and I respect that from Graham Gano. But hopefully he's okay and he's not going to miss any time and he's good to go. Of course, you don't want your kicker injured, because our punter ended up having to kick some field goals, which he hit a 31-yarder, I do believe. So pretty good job on his part. But, we need to get better in the special teams department. Otherwise, I was impressed on the offensive side. Defensive side had some hiccups, but no standout bad performances, which is good. Health-wise, Beavers, will keep you guys updated on that. And obviously the Kayvon Thibodeaux situation as well. Brian Dibble did say they will offer a little bit more information tomorrow once they run some more tests, but seemed like he was in high spirits and doing quite well, my friends. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this post-game recap for the New York Giants against the Cincinnati Bengals with us on Fireside Giants. It's going to be Monday tomorrow. We got a week coming up. Then we got a Giants-Jets game at MetLife Stadium before we have a week and a half off until the regular season, my friend. So I'm very, very excited for this upcoming year. A lot to discuss. We'll break down into some individual performances, this upcoming week and tomorrow. So excited to take a look at some individual guys as well. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.